Hello, welcome. This is the Three Ships SelfWorth webinar with me, Millie Fox. We are going to wait for some people to arrive. I am here first. And let's just get into the mood. Just check all my stuff. Make sure that nobody's, emailing. Okay, we are going to admit the people. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, we're just gonna enjoy a few moments of hanging out while we wait for some people to show up. So welcome, Michaela. Welcome, Megan. Welcome, Denise. Hope everybody's doing great.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, you too. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So while we're waiting, why don't we open the chat up? And well, since there's only a few people here right now, why don't you guys tell me where you're listening from? I think Michaela, you're in Toronto, right?
That's right.
Yeah. How about the other ladies who are with us? Are you guys local? Are you tuning in from somewhere farther away? You can type in the chat or you can unmute yourself and say hey if you'd like. No worries. Yeah, nobody has to be on video. Like this is PEI, Denise, that's amazing. So beautiful. That is on my list of places to visit for sure. I need to do better at traveling within Canada. Okay, guys, well, we will give it a few more minutes. And while we're waiting, I'm going to just introduce myself a little bit. My name is Millie Fox, and I am a transformational coach. So what does that mean? That means that I help women. A lot of times I work with entrepreneurial women, but I work with badass women is the main focus, who are ready to play big in their lives. So I help them leverage their self-worth as their superpower in order to manifest the lives of their dreams. So there's a variety of different tools that I use to help women, get to that place of feeling powerful, in her power, and like with that clarity of vision to know where she's going and to trust herself and her vision and her intuition in getting there. Okay, so some of my specialties are, if you follow me on Instagram, manifestation. I also use human design as a really amazing tool to help women get to know who they truly are at their core, their most authentic selves, to help them with self-acceptance and to move forward in the world in that authenticity that really truly allows them to, to go for what they want and to see and be in touch with their desires, because it's so, so important to have that clarity, especially in terms of manifestation. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is just dive into the material, because this was a 30-minute workshop. So we're just going to get right into it, and I will allow people to join as they come. And just so you know, I am recording the workshop so that I can send it out to the people who are not able to attend today. Okay, I'm just going to quickly check my messages and my emails to make sure that nobody is like telling me there's a problem, or they can't get in or what have you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so looks like we're good. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I speak your language, Denise. That's great. I'm so glad you're on the same energetic frequency as me. So I'm going to share my screen, And I'm going to go through some slides that I put together. It's not a big slide presentation. It's just like a few to help keep us on track and to really have that like visual clarity of what we are talking about. So give me a second to just get this screen share happening. I'm going to share here. Okay. So we've got the foundations of self-worth. Let's see if we can go full screen here. Here we go. Okay, guys. So what are the foundations of self-worth and why is it important? Well, our worthiness determines what is reflected back to us in our realities, right? Like what we put out, we get back, and that is energetic law. So if we feel worthy of a divine life and being highly compensated and loved and all these great things, we have to feel those things first, right? Our relationships and really everything in life are a reflection back to us of how we feel about ourselves. So that's why self-worth really is the foundation. And that's why I'm bringing you what is self-worth? What comprises self-worth? So we're going to go over 5 different areas that make up self-worth, okay? And I'm just thinking for one second, am I going to be able to see people trying to get in to the workshop if I'm sharing the full screen? Does anybody know Zoom really well? Like if more people are trying to get in, am I going to be able to let them in?
Yeah, there should be like a notification that comes up at the bottom.
Okay, great.
I'm pretty sure you should be able to let them in. Yeah, no worries.
Amazing. All right, so let's get back to it. So what we're going to cover here is self-trust, self-compassion, letting go of perfectionism, getting back in touch with you, and taking back your power. So these are the 5 biggest areas that I've found in my coaching practice, in my personal development journey, that have really come together to create that inherent feeling of worthiness. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is self-trust. Okay, so what is self-trust? Self-trust is the ability to rely on your own character, ability, strength, and truth. So if you just think about what it means to trust another person, it can be pretty clear for you to understand what it would mean to trust yourself. It applies to a lot of different things in your life, but it's built by first of all, being in touch with our own needs, right? We have to understand what our needs are. And it's crazy how often you can speak to somebody and ask them, well, what do you need from me? And they're not able to communicate it because they haven't really spent any sort of time thinking about it. And oftentimes we don't really think about ourselves very much. We don't spend time thinking about our own needs and how to get them met. And the problem with that is if you don't consciously know your own needs and you don't consciously and intentionally get them met, your unconscious will find chaotic and sort of like unhelpful ways to try to get your needs met, right? So being in touch with our own needs builds self-trust, and then communicating our needs and setting boundaries also builds self-trust because it builds self-reliance. We know that we can rely on ourselves to intentionally meet our own needs and to make sure that we know that where we end as an individual and where another person begins, right? And by the way, if anybody has comments or questions as I am speaking, please feel free to jump in and ask questions in the chat. And then keeping promises to ourselves is a really, really big one because the opposite of keeping promises is betraying ourselves and abandoning ourselves, right? So when we say we're going to do something for ourselves, but we don't, and we just kind of let it slide, we don't keep the commitments that we've made to ourselves, it really depletes this like feeling of self-trust. If we can't show up for ourselves, then who's going to, right? So really building that. You can start small. You can start with like small things that you know you're going to do for yourself every day, like I don't know, drink a green smoothie in the morning or whatever. Like just find something and make that your one task to consistently show up for yourself over and over and over again to start building that. And then a bigger version of this is taking risks, right? And showing ourselves that we can do hard things. So this would be like taking the big leap, going for something that we really want in our lives, whether that be like, yoga teacher training or leaving our full-time job to pursue our passion, so taking those risks, actually taking the big leaps to show ourselves that we can rely on ourselves, we are capable, and that we can trust that we can do those hard things. So self-trust is like is a wonderful topic that I think really doesn't get as much airtime as it should. A lot of people talk about self-love, but this is one of the most important aspects of building, that relationship with ourselves, with that worthiness. Like self-worth is really the underlying piece to self-love, right? When we feel worthy, we feel lovable, and they just go like hand in hand. They cannot be separated from one another. Okay. Self-compassion, the second piece, is super duper huge. Michaela says, I recently got a new job in a completely different industry and it was a risk in a sense, but I've been so happy about making the switch. Yes, exactly. That's a big leap, right? So that is a huge self-trust builder, because you took the risk, you did it for yourself, and you can feel proud of yourself too. After you've completed that and you've finished the task, you feel a lot of confidence from that as well. Okay, getting back to self-compassion. This is a huge topic for me. We're just gonna welcome Chantel into the workshop. So self-compassion, what is it made of? It's made of self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And I'm going to share what each of these mean. We're going to go through them one by one. But I just want to say what self-compassion is not. It's not letting yourself get away with things. It's not like, oh, I'm just not going to do that thing, and I'm going to be like that I really want to do, and I'm going to be kind to myself because I'm going to let myself off the hook and blah, blah, blah. Yes, there are times that you need to let yourself off the hook, for sure. That's part of kindness, but it's not like scapegoating. It's not holding yourself to a high standard or any of those things, okay? So what it is self-kindness. It's that voice inside your head, right? It's that we do not need to berate ourselves. We really should be our number one cheerleader and number one fan, because if we're not able to give ourselves that, what's going to happen is that we are going to constantly look for external validation. So we need to be aware. And that's the third piece, actually, is the awareness, the mindfulness of that self-talk, right? That mean girl needs to just like, you need to thank her for her opinion. Like, we don't need to push out any part of ourselves or make any part of ourselves wrong. We don't need to be judging any part of ourselves, but we need to say like, thank you. I understand you're trying to protect me. And I forgive you for trying to sabotage me, but I believe in myself here. I know I'm doing a good job. So that's the kind of self-talk, self-kindness that we need to be practicing to show ourselves that compassion. And then the second piece is common humanity. So Brene Brown's first book was called I Thought It Was Just Me. And this title kind of embodies the second element of self-compassion, and that is we are all in this together. Whenever we think that we are alone, we're in fact not. We all are part of this experience. We are all experiencing, shame, judgment, feelings of whatever, anxiety, all of these things that we're experiencing, we are not alone. So recognizing and realizing that you are human, we are having this common human experience, and that there's always somebody out there to reach out to, that shows your self-compassion, that you are not, this loner, this one in a million, that something's wrong with you. You are human. You deserve to be acknowledged for your human experience. Okay. And then the mindfulness piece. There's two sides to this. The mindfulness piece, yes, it's awareness. Yes, it's recognizing, that our self-talk is not really productive today. But it also is not over identifying with our emotions, right? So when we over identify with emotions, we can get sucked into a black hole. And yes, it's important, absolutely important to acknowledge. And we're going to go through a quick little self-compassion practice that I'm going to take you through after this slide. But we need to watch out for making our emotions a part of who we are, right? So our emotions are incredible. They're a GPS. They're really something that we need to be more aware of and responsible of. But when we spiral into an emotion and make it part of who we are, instead of realizing that it's kind of like a cloud passing in the sky, we get really like sucked in, and that's when you can find yourself going down that hole of like letting yourself off the hook, or letting yourself justify unreasonable behaviors, or justify treating other people poorly, or whatever it may be. So part of that mindfulness is, so there's two sides of, like I said, two sides of the mindfulness piece, and there's two sides of self-compassion. There's the yin side and the yang side. And I love this concept because it's not all flowy, ooey gooey stuff when it comes to self-compassion. The yin side is more so like that, right? It's that like feminine energy of the sweetness, the softness, the tenderness that you're having with yourself, that kindness, recognizing your humanity. But then there's also the yang side of self-compassion, and that's the boundaries. That's the setting of the boundaries. That's the being radically honest with yourself and noticing where you need to tighten up a boundary, or where you need to look in the mirror and look at a behavior that you've been doing that maybe is sabotaging you. Right? So that's the mindfulness piece, is the really being radically responsible and aware of yourself and your habits and your behaviors. Yeah, mindfulness. Michaela says, I need to work on mindfulness. I replay scenarios and beat myself up way too much. Yeah, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of benefit to replaying things over and over, right? As long as you take away some kind of lesson from a scenario, you're good to move on, and a lot of that comes back to that radical responsibility. And it's not judging ourselves. It's like, not like, oh, I should have done this or that. It's okay, I recognize how my behavior played into this scenario, and next time I will conduct myself in this way instead. It's taking a learning and moving on. And maybe that learning is, I needed to be more compassionate to myself in that scenario and not judge myself. Okay. So next up, we've got our self-compassion exercise, which is the acronym RAIN, RAIN. And this is really great to have in your back pocket, because whenever you're going through a difficult situation, you can use this acronym to help you do a quick little reminder that you deserve compassion, that your emotions are valid, and that you are totally, worthy of compassion, right? You're worthy of your human experience. So the first step is to recognize. And so that's the mindfulness, the awareness piece, is to recognize like, oh, I feel myself getting angry right now, or whatever the emotion may be. So you have to become aware of the physical sensations that present in your body when you're starting to get into a certain state, right? So you're recognizing that you're in a scenario. And then what you're going to do is allow and acknowledge, right? We don't want to be pushing away emotions or pushing away feelings. We want to allow them, because whatever we sweep under the rug, whatever we resist, persists, right? So we need to allow the emotion, say, whew, hey, I'm feeling really angry right now. Or like you can talk to yourself in the third person, like, hey girl, you're getting really riled up right now. You know, I'm seeing it, I'm acknowledging it. And then the next step is to investigate that. Where is this coming from? Is this actually related to like the fact that my partner didn't do the dishes again? Or is it related to the fact that, you know, I feel underappreciated, or I feel like my time isn't being respected? Or maybe is it because I haven't set enough boundaries around my time? You know, so that's the investigate piece, and that really requires the mindfulness. All of this requires a lot of mindfulness, right? And then the fourth step is to nurture. So that's going to be, you can nurture yourself in a variety of ways, but it's going to be the deep breaths, you know, the taking whatever time you might need to go and calm yourself down, or even something as sweet and simple as like giving yourself some physical touch. Okay. I really like the physical touch piece. I like to cut my face. It's just, there's something so nurturing about feeling some kind of touch on your face, or you can like, you know, stroke your face or whatever, take a walk, like soothe yourself. Okay. Yeah, it's a really helpful little process. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to be emailing these slides out to everybody who registered afterwards, so you can have access to these resources. Okay, number 3, letting go of perfectionism. Okay, so perfectionism is not a badge of honor. It is the birthplace of shame. Okay, it's a self-defeating cycle. It's not healthy striving, it's self-destructive, and it's addictive. Okay, so the way that perfectionism grabs a hold of us is by this false belief that if you look perfect, live perfectly, and do everything perfectly, that you can avoid or minimize the painful feelings of shame, judgment, and pain. But here's where it becomes self-destructive and addictive. It sends you into a cycle of please, perform, perfect. Okay. And what happens when we get into the cycle of please perform, Denise, you don't need a screenshot. I'm going to send them out. So please perform perfect. So we try to contort ourselves to please other people. And then we put on a performance, right? We put on this performance for other people to sort of like, yeah, you're going to get a copy, to sort of like posture yourself to avoid any kind of criticism or judgment or whatever. So you're becoming a people pleaser, right? You're becoming a chameleon to fit into some kind of box to avoid these painful feelings. And then inevitably we're going to receive negative feedback, right? Like it happens. You cannot avoid it. It's part of the human experience. It's common humanity, right? So yeah, exactly. All of us, I think, suffer from a level of perfectionism because of the society that we live in. So, you know, performance oriented. So inevitably, we have those feelings of shame, judgment, and pain, and they're amplified because we internalize them. We really make it personal when we're suffering from perfectionism. And that's where the birthplace of shame is. We make it about who we are. So shame says, I am bad. Whereas guilt is, I did something bad. So shame is really the darkest of all places and emotions. So what we do after we get into that, we experience those feelings, is we go back into that perfect, like, oh, well, next time I'm going to do it even better. I'm going to show them, you're never going to catch me, you know, like whatever. And then we harden up, we let people in less, we cut ourselves off from connection, we shrink, you know, just all these really terrible things that take away from our self-worth, right? Like shame and self-worth, they just don't go together. One sec, I'm gonna grab a sip. Okay. The fourth step is to get in touch with you, okay? So this is about, who are you? Do you have a relationship with who you really are? How well do you know yourself outside of your roles and titles? Yes, you may be a sister, employee, boss, entrepreneur, mother, girlfriend, wife, whatever. But who are you at the core? Like, how in touch are you with that woman and your divine connection to that being that came into this world the moment that you were born? And what does that being want? That being that is your soul's flame, who is that person, and how much acceptance do you have of that person, with the full range of who that person is? Because we're all incredibly dynamic and unique people, right? So it's so important to be in touch with this person, because then you'll know what you really want. If you don't know who you are, you don't know what you really want. You're operating out of shoulds, right? And then again, when you're operating out of shoulds, you're seeking external validation, right? You're living life not on your terms. And this definitely pulls away from your self-worth. And if we're not like showing up in the world as who we really are, we can never find true belonging. Okay? So there's a difference between belonging and fitting in. And true belonging requires pure authenticity, because then you actually feel seen, and then you can feel like you actually belong, because the people are really accepting you for who you are. And that requires knowing yourself and accepting yourself. And the tool that I love best for this is human design. It's an incredible system that gives you basically a blueprint of exactly who you are. It gives you this system that helps expose where you're most open to conditioning, and sort of like your theme in life, and just so much self-awareness, and such a great tool for self-acceptance. And I do offer human design coaching intensives. I don't do one-off readings. If you are curious about human design, I do a 3-package session. And for anything that you are interested in, you can always send me a message after. I am going to tell you a little bit else of the other things that I offer at the end here too. So clarity and having a vision for life. What is your why? Your why will come from inside your heart, who you really are. So Michaela is saying, I did a podcast episode with my best friend on the topic of imposter syndrome, and there's a bunch of different types. Totally. I identified most with the superwoman one. I think that's what it was called. And basically it meant that if you feel like you can't do or say everything and anything flawlessly, then you're a failure. Very interesting topic. Totally. Very, very interesting. And also the thing about imposter syndrome is that it's a sign of growth. If you're feeling imposter syndrome, it's a sign that you are in a growth state. So it's not always a bad thing, but there is definitely a self-worth piece there, where we need to take a look at our self-worth. And the last thing here is, like I've already talked about, radical responsibility. Okay, I've talked about this already. This is about taking our power back, right? So when we make excuses for why we can't be, do, or have the things we want, we give our power to things outside of ourselves. Okay, but when we take responsibility, we take back our power. So when we make excuses, some of those excuses may be quite valid, but it is placing the power on the external environment, right? There's always a choice at hand. There's always a choice to show up a different way, to behave a different way, to respond a different way, to slow down in a situation, to respond a different way. And if we are constantly giving our power to external things, we lose all agency. We don't feel capable or confident or anything like that, right? We are just giving it all up. So although it's hard to take that, clear, good look in the mirror and be honest with ourselves about where we're getting in our own way, it really is the way to take our power back. So you have 2 choices. You can be caught in cause, or you can be in effect. So what this means is You can have things happening to you, or you can be choosing how you're going to respond to the situation. And there's a quote, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it's by Viktor Frankl, who's an incredible, Holocaust survivor, writer, psychologist, who wrote, in between the time in between I think somebody's trying to get in right now. The time between the event and your power lies in between the time of the event and your response, right? So you have this time in between the time something happens and the time that you respond. And that's where your power lies, right? And that requires responsibility. So there's a fun little exercise I'm just going to show you quickly. It's just an energetic thing that I teach with my clients about taking our power back. And you just literally like put your hands up, because you like get yourself into a power stance, pull your shoulders back, put your hands up, and just declare out loud, I'm taking my power back in this situation. Take some deep breaths. I can feel it returning to me now, right? So it doesn't have to be this should, like, oh, I should really take responsibility. We don't want to run into self-judgment here. We want to feel empowered, like, ooh, you know what? This person or this situation is really getting to me. What choices do I have here? You know? And it's really an empowering way to look at it. Okay. And last but not least, how can you stay in touch with me? If you don't follow me on Instagram already, you can come and find me at Millie Fox, or on TikTok. I have some fun over there too at XO Millie Fox. And I just want to tell you a couple of the things that I am currently offering. I have a signature program that is available to drop into at any time called Move Girl, and it's about getting out of your own way so that you can live the life of your dreams. Yeah, it does. Yes, Denise, it feels very bad when someone disrespects you, right? So you'll have some questions that you can ask yourself when somebody is treating you in a way that crosses your boundaries. It's A, do I have some boundaries that I need to set here? B, is this the job for me? Am I willing to stay in a position where I'm consistently disrespected? You know, that's a choice too. Or, C, is there a way that I can reframe what my boss has said to me? Was it actually disrespect? Or, did I take it that way? Because just coming from my personal experience, I have been a very defensive person. I've taken things very personally. And so that's a third way to look at it. It's like, did I actually get disrespected here? Is it really true? So those are some of the tools that I teach inside my program, Move Girl. Michaela, I'm so glad that you've enjoyed it. And before you guys go, I also want to make sure that you know that I have a promo code for 3 ships if you use the code MillieFox. Oh, there should not be a space there. It's one word, MillieFox. You can get 20% off of 3 ships products. My personal faves are here: the Refresh Papaya Salicylic Acid Cleanser, and the Dewdrops with the hyaluronic acid and vitamin C serum. So just in case anybody's popping off, I want to make sure that you've got that promo code. Yes, they are incredible. I just love 3 ships. I'm so on board for their growth and everything. Okay, and then just getting back to the things that I have for you guys if you're interested in continuing our relationship, because I feel like we're just in this like courtship phase right now. I've got my signature program, which is called Move Girl. It's a 6-week go at your own pace program, but there are options for support. I do have those human design intensives, but the thing that I'm most excited about right now is this 6-week intensive breakthrough process that I am offering. And I only have space for 1 client. So if you are interested in learning more about this breakthrough, my focus for it is to really help transform and break through to your next level of worthiness and power. And part of that is dropping perfectionism, seeing where you're sabotaging yourself, seeing where your strength and power lies, and harnessing that. So if you're interested in that, you can book a free 30-minute discovery call with me, and it's super easy to do so. All you got to do is come on over to the Instagrams and send me a DM, and I'll send you a link to book that. Okay, guys, does anybody have any questions or thoughts or big aha moments that they had from watching today? I would love to hear or answer any of your questions. So much yes. What was your favorite part of the workshop today?
Okay, so I'm just gonna talk because it's a lot
Yeah.
easier than typing it. My favorite part, actually, it was the rain, like seeing those letters and like the step by step kind of thing. I had never seen that before, so I thought that that was really cool and eye opening. And also the comment that you made in response to imposter syndrome. See, like it's such a, I guess, like a very like wide range topic, but yeah, like I'd never thought of it in that aspect before, that it could be like, I guess, meaning growth. So yeah, that is definitely a really cool angle. I did have kind of like a small question, going back to the beginning. So you did talk about like being in touch with your own needs, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what my needs are. But like, would you be able to give some examples, I guess, of different needs? I think I know mine, but like I don't know, just like opening my mind. Maybe there's other things out there.
Right. So there's so many different needs, right? There's like spiritual needs, there's like
Right.
work, financial, relationship. So you got it, you could take your pick really. Like for me, a
Right.
need for me is I need to practice yoga. I need to practice yoga
I see, I see.
maybe once, twice a week. So I need to set the boundaries around my time to make sure that's in my schedule, right? Like I need to
Right,
prioritize
right.
myself. So when we know what our needs are, we need to set the boundaries and make like do the things to make sure we get that need met, right? That's just one small thing. Or like I need to drink a certain amount of water a day, or like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need a certain amount of like one-on-one time with my partner, or like it really
Right.
it can go.
Certain number of hours of sleep in the night. For me, it's definitely communication, like within relationships, at work. I do have anxiety, so I feel like I always have a need to know what's going on, like when things change, learn to be more flexible, things like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Really cool. Really cool. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
it's definitely ongoing work, that's for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Billy.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Anybody else have any comments or questions? I see that Denise and Megan are still here. All right. If nobody's got anything else they want to pop on and say or ask, I will bid you adieu. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really, really appreciate it. And stay in touch. Come and say hello. If you follow me on Instagram, send me a DM and say hey so I can follow you back. Okay, guys? Great. I appreciate it. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.